When she rose to power in March 2021, Samia Suluhu Hassan was hailed as a beacon of hope. Tanzania had just lost its iron-fisted president, John Pombe Magufuli, and many believed that a new era of democracy, transparency and reform had dawned. She was soft-spoken, calm and appeared reasonable, a stark contrast to the aggressive style of her predecessor. But 4 years later, her administration is beginning to resemble the very autocracy Tanzanians hope to leave behind. This is the story of Samia Suluhu, Tanzania's soft-spoken leader who is slowly tightening her grip on power and turning into a dictator. Samia Suluhu Hassan made history when she became the 6th president of Tanzania and the first woman to hold the office. She ascended to power following the sudden death of President Makufuli in March 2021, and at first there was widespread optimism. Her demeanour was gentle, her voice soft and motherly. Tanzanians, weary of Magufuli's authoritarianism, saw her as a breath of fresh air. She spoke of reconciliation, development and openness. Under her early leadership, political exiles began returning. Journalists breathed easier. Opposition leaders like Tundu Lisu, who had survived an assassination attempt in 2017, even returned to the country. It seemed like a new Tanzania was emerging, but beneath the soft exterior, the machinery of power was still turning, and Samia was quietly taking notes. As time passed, the honeymoon period began to fade. The opposition, particularly Chadema, Tanzania's main opposition party, began questioning her sincerity. They criticized her slow pace of reform, the lack of constitutional change, and the continued use of repressive laws. Samia, once seen as a bridge builder, began sounding more like her predecessor. Her speeches took a nationalistic tone. She warned critics against chaos and insulting the government. The military and police, once in the background, began showing up more prominently at her events. Then came the clampdown. In early 2023, several opposition rallies were disrupted by police. Journalists who reported critically on the government were questioned, and slowly, one by one, civil liberties started to vanish. What Tanzanians had thought was a new beginning was in fact a continuation of the old, but with a softer voice. Tundu Lisu, charismatic, fearless, and a thorn in the side of every ruling party in Tanzania since 2015. He was the face of the opposition, and one of the first to speak out against Magufuli's authoritarian rule. After returning from exile under Samia's early promise of reconciliation, Lisu resumed his political activism. But as the 2025 general elections drew closer, it became clear that the president saw him as a threat. In May 2025, Lisu was arrested under accusations of treason, a charge many international observers called politically motivated. His crime? Criticizing government corruption and rallying Tanzanians to demand electoral reforms. As he was led away by heavily armed police, the message was clear: opposition voices would not be tolerated. Human rights groups condemned the arrest. Social media erupted in protest, but inside Tanzania, fear began to settle in. The crackdown did not stop at Tanzanian borders. In what shocked the East African region, President Samia Suluhu began targeting prominent foreign activists, individuals who had either criticized her administration or stood in solidarity with Tanzanian opposition voices. Among those deported were Martha Karua, a respected Kenyan politician and former Minister of Justice, known for championing human rights and democracy across Africa. Dr. Willy Mutunga, Kenya's former Chief Justice, who had spoken in support of democracy and political freedoms in Tanzania. Boniface Mwangi, a fearless Kenyan activist known for his vocal critiques of authoritarian regimes across Africa. Even Ugandan human rights activists who had come to Tanzania for conferences or solidarity events were detained, questioned and expelled. The message was unmistakable. Tanzania would no longer tolerate foreign voices meddling in its internal affairs. Internationally, Samia Suluhu still presents herself as a reformer. She attends global climate conferences, meets with heads of state, and speaks eloquently about women's empowerment, economic growth, and regional cooperation. But back home, her government has weaponized the law to silence critics. Military police now patrol political events. Social media is under tighter surveillance. Several journalists and whistleblowers have vanished or gone silent. Behind the calm demeanor lies a carefully managed image. Samia is not loud. She doesn't bang tables, but her actions speak louder than any speech she's ever given. This is authoritarianism with a smile, a quiet repression wrapped in diplomacy and PR. Her public persona contrasts sharply with the reality on the ground. With general elections approaching in 2025, many fear that Tanzania is heading into yet another era of rigged polls, mass arrests and information blackouts. Opposition leaders are behind bars. Civil society is under siege. She has shut down X, formerly Twitter. The judiciary has grown increasingly aligned with the executive. And the people, many are now afraid to speak their minds. The tragedy is that Tanzanians had hope. They believed in Samia. They believed that a woman president, especially one who had spoken of peace and unity, could break the chains of repression. But instead, they are witnessing the rise of a soft-spoken dictator, one who has mastered the art of ruling with a gentle voice and an iron fist. The future remains uncertain, but the spirit of the people endures. Power doesn't always announce itself with fury. Sometimes it whispers. And in Tanzania, that whisper is growing louder and more dangerous, especially heading to the election. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think about President Samia's shift in leadership. Is she protecting national stability or silencing democracy? Stay tuned for more in-depth analyses and stories from around the world.